The Talksport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.
Hello Cherries fans and welcome back to Up the Cherries, and this is the third episode in our mini-series of cherry picking, which is called the Andoni Half Time Report. So that can only mean one thing, that I'm joined by my two regular guests who have both contributed to the show over the last few weeks, and also for the content of the show as well. And of course, that can mean one thing, and the first guest is Mr. Malcolm Chiverton. Malcolm, how are you doing? Good to see you as always. Welcome to the final part of the Andoni Half-Time Report.
Yes, really good. Really good. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Very interesting topic.
Yes.
You know, and to be able to get so much information and, you know, to make up three parts is, well, here, brilliant. Well done.
Yeah, no, and well done to both you and my other guest. Of course, you'll know him from Cherry AM, where he presents regularly alongside Malcolm. And of course, he does the match reaction shows Monday nights normally. And of course, that is Mr. Ollie Hudson. Ollie, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
Very well, thank you, mate. How are you guys?
Yeah, I think we're both well.
All good, thanks, Ollie.
Good,
yeah.
good. Yeah, very excited to do part 3 of the halftime report.
Yeah, no, definitely. And so if you haven't seen part 1 or part 2, do check them out first. Go back onto the channel and you'll see them there. Part 1, we discuss the appointment of Andoni and his first maiden season at the club. The last part, we discuss last season and a few other bits and pieces as well. This episode is called Developing World-Class Talent and the Iraola Style. So this episode, we're going to be looking more into players that have been developed by Andoni and his tactical analysis as well. So let's get started, guys, shall we? Might as well. And first up, we're just going to have a quick look at some players. And I think Malcolm's going to help me with this one. With the pronunciations of the names. So I'm going to get Malcolm to read the names out as we go through each one, because I've tried and probably epically failed. So, but yeah, these are players that Andoni has worked with at past clubs before we move on to the Bournemouth players that he's worked with. So, yeah, let's just have a quick look at this then. And the first player up is Malcolm.
Well, it looks like Joan, doesn't it? Troy Olds.
Trials.
But it's probably obviously another national, so maybe the pronunciation isn't quite correct.
No.
But hey ho. So Larnaca from Cyprus, isn't it?
Yes, that was the first club Andoni was out at when he became a manager or head coach, whatever you want to call his role. But yeah, with this player, he became more composed ball-playing defender under Iraola's structured defensive setup. And he now plays for... Who's that club there, Malcolm?
I haven't a clue.
No, I haven't either. So, yeah, it's a centre-back player that's been developed into more of a ball-playing defender under Andoni. The next one, Malcolm, same club again.
Ivan Tchaikovsky.
Ivan Trevosky. Yeah, so he's a forward player who become more composed. Well, he became more of a composed ball playing forward under Andoni, but he's actually now retired. He's the general football director of another club now, so he's actually retired. So someone that Andoni possibly developed later on in his career.
Before you go on, the previous player,
Yeah,
all right, is a Spanish club in Segunda División B in Spain. There we go.
thank you very much. Thank you very
Okay.
much. So, excellent. Yeah, thank you for that, Malcolm. Martin.
Mequelans.
Yeah, so he was a winger that was on loan with Andoni's second club at the time. He scored 15 goals and provided 10 assists in the, I'm assuming that's the second division.
Yeah.
And he developed into one of the league's most dangerous wide players under Andoni. And now he plays for FC Andorra. Not too sure what league they're in, FC Andorra, to be honest.
Me neither. But I'm
yeah.
sure we can find out.
Yeah, I'm sure we can. But yeah, no, he was on loan. He was a player that Andoni worked with on loan from Real Sociedad, and obviously had an impact on his career. Antonio Sanchez.
Brilliant.
Look at that for a bit of pronunciation. So he was said to have improved the tactical discipline and pressing ability of this player, and became a regular at Mallorca in La Liga. So a centre midfielder there who Andoni had some real impact on in his development, why he worked for him for just the one season. And now we go on to Andoni's last club before Bournemouth.
Is he or isn't he?
Is he or isn't he? Yeah. You know what? I actually thought that earlier on when I saw this. Is he or isn't he? Anyway.
Palazon.
Palazon. Yeah. So he's a winger.
I would say, yeah.
Yeah. So Palazon. So a winger who was transformed into a creative and pressing machine and became one of La Liga's most consistent wide threats, which, says a lot, really. That does. I mean, top division in Spain, and Andoni's developed a player and worked with a player and probably improved the game of a player that has become, one of the La Liga's most consistent wide threats. So, and he still is at the club now.
Wow.
Okay. Alvaro Garcia.
Well done.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's not bad. I've done well there. So he's thrived in transition, heavy play, and increasing his goal contributions. So it's good just to see, the types of different players that Andoni has worked with and has kind of left his mark on. And he is still currently at the club as well. A player that's moved on, who now plays for Valencia in the Spanish division, is, go on, Mal, take it.
Must I? Stoller. I would say Stoller. And then, Dmitrievsky.
Yeah. So goalkeeper, and like he's done with a couple of our goalkeepers, has improved his distribution and the command of his box. It's good to see a goalkeeper in there that's been impacted by Andoni. And finally, a player who is now part of Real Madrid's side, who was playing with Andoni before he moved on to Bournemouth, and that's Fran Garcia, who developed into a dynamic fullback, earning a move back to Real Madrid. So, so there's some of the players that Andoni has had an impact on. And so what we'll do now is we'll just get a point off both the guys, on their thoughts on this. Just give a second, and here we go. So guys, some interesting different names there, different positions. I think it just kind of shows, the actual, skills as a coach that Andoni's got. I mean, would you agree with that, Ollie?
Yeah, absolutely. Clearly, there's a route that he takes with certain players that he picks out. And after honing and kind of making sure that he's taking all the attributes of that player, those players are coming out better. We've seen it already, as you're going to come into in a minute. But yeah, clear proof before he came over to Bournemouth.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm sure you probably echo that, Malcolm. Got anything you want to add to that?
There's not much you can add to it. Only the fact what Andoni learned in his time, obviously in Cyprus and predominantly in Spain, and the coaches he was under, and influenced him in how he makes his choices, basically.
Yeah.
So it's and that's a standout thing. And I mean, with Rayo, I think they're still continuing the same trend from what I've recently read. On the trainer there or manager that should have come to Bournemouth but couldn't because of the working permit. So, and he's running a good ship over there in La Liga with the club. So, yeah, super job.
Yeah, no, definitely. I totally agree with both your points there. But yeah, no, it's good to see, just a few different players that Andoni has brought on during his career so far, because he is very,
Sorry,
very
Cherries is the manager. Sorry, I forgot.
Yeah, Cherries. Yeah, that was the guy that had the issues with the permit, wasn't it, at the time? So let's have a look at his traits, described as one of the world's up and coming progressive player focused coaches. So we'll take a look at this. Any point you want to add anything, guys, just please do. I'll just cover through this. I know this is some of the research that Ollie did. So he's as a focused coach, as a player focused coach, his tactical clarity and his role definition. Players under Andoni know exactly what's expected of them, both with and without the ball. He simplifies complex systems into clear, reputable patterns, helping players grow in confidence and consistency. His high intensity training culture. So his sessions are known for their intensity, tempo, and tactical realism. Now, I think if you've seen any of the footage on the club website of the training, you would definitely agree it was definitely high intensity. This environment pushes players to improve physically and mentally, especially in pressing and transitions. Now, just very quickly before we move on, because a question's just popped into my head there. Do you think with such high intensity training that could contribute to injuries? Or do you reckon that's just a myth?
I think it's a myth.
Cool.
I think it's a myth.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
I think that it's absolutely necessary to have those kind of high intensity situations being played out in training. I think the impact injuries and the amount of intensity player to player can differ and be lowered for sure, more controlled, more compact. But no, I definitely think they're a necessity to have. Otherwise, you have no idea how these players are going to act in a real life situation within 90 minutes. So you have to keep putting it on them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It was just interesting to hear what both your thoughts were on that, because I know sometimes people say, it's too much that they're doing too much in training. But I think that, I think you're both spot on with what you've said there. So trust in youth and unproven talent, which I think we have seen that at Bournemouth. At his former clubs, he gave key roles to young loanees and academy graduates. So we saw there in the previous segment where he improved one of the players that had come on loan from Real Sociedad. So he made an impact on them. And we've seen what he has done with the young academy players at Bournemouth. And obviously in terms of young loanees, what he's doing with Jimenez now. So at Bournemouth, players like Alex Scott, Antoine Semenyo and Krupi have flourished under his guidance. Now we'll touch on a little bit more of that a little bit later on, but we've seen the impact he's had definitely on our squad. Positional versatility. So Andoni often retrains players in new roles to maximise their potential. So, for example, fullbacks as inverted midfielders, wingers as inside forwards. So I think we've seen that, to be honest, haven't we, with some of our wingers where they've become sort of inside forwards. This expands a player's tactical IQ and also their market value. So what is man management and mentality coaching? So he's known for being calm, approachable, and deeply someone hit that word.
Analytical.
Analytical. Yeah. It's just it literally popped in there as you said it. Players often cite his ability to build belief, offer honest feedback, and create a growth mindset. Guys, just reading that little bit there. I would say obviously I don't have the privilege of working with Andoni on a training pitch day in, day out. But, when you kind of see him, in footage on the training field, and just when you see him in his press conferences and kind of the vibe you get off him as a person, I would definitely agree with that. He's very approachable and calm. And I think as a player, he must be an excellent manager that if you've got a problem, either a personal problem or whether you've got a problem on the field, I think that is a great skill that he's got that a player can just approach. Guys, I mean, one at a time, if you want to have a little say on that.
Yeah. One of the videos that came out quite recent was with Tyler Adams, and he was questioned about Andoni, and it was something that had happened during the game, which Andoni explained to Tyler Adams what he didn't see. But Andoni at the same time said, I could see it happening from the sideline, so you should be able to see it on the pitch. It wasn't like a get at you sort of thing. It was a constructive criticism, if you like, to make Tyler Adams aware of something he probably missed, which perhaps he shouldn't have done, whether it was with a player coming towards him or movement from the opposition or whatever. But the conversation was just so on a level, there was no shouting or anything like it. It was like two grown-ups, the boss explaining to the worker, if you like, and it come across really cool. Also, the fact that, as you so rightly said, that he's approachable. And even when he's away from football and away from the football and he's out on his bicycle, whatever, he's got time for people. And if people want to approach him, he doesn't shoo them away. He'll find a couple of minutes to say hi, hello, if you want a picture, whatever it is, that sort of thing. And that just shows his character, brilliant and calm as well. I love his press conferences. I really do. If there's questions which are quite often unanswerable, which he will refuse to answer, but it's the way he doesn't answer them, which tickled me mostly. But it's a pleasure just to sit and listen to him.
Yeah. Ollie.
Yeah, I mean, I think you took the words right out of my mouth immediately. The response from the players, I think, is the first thing that sticks out in mind. After each game, before each game, when they're talking about the goals they score, how they work together, their strategy, they all kind of make it all relevant and fall back to Iraola and how he structures training, how he structures management, how he structures orchestration around them. So you can tell he's that go-to guy. I mean, separate to that, I'm not sure if you've seen the picture, but he's also seen running the line for one of his kids, isn't he, at an under-8 games?
Yeah, brilliant.
You wouldn't see every manager doing that in the Premier League. A lot of them may think that they're too good for it or too busy on a Sunday morning, but no, he's out there running that line for his kids' game, which I just think is, again, shows how epic of a guy he is, So, yeah, summed up perfectly.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with what you're saying there, Ollie. I mean, I don't think that's something you see every day.
No.
But I think, at the same time, it just shows the kind of character he is. And I think whether you're a manager in football or any type of sport or just in, any walk of life, I think these kind of attributes is always very, very key to a good management style. So, thanks for your points there, guys. So, data-driven but human-centric. While he embraces analytics, Iraola doesn't let data override intuition. He uses video analysts and performance metrics to educate and not intimidate. And let's move on to, just some general views from you guys, about his style. Not my pronunciations of wording, if possible, but guys. I mean, overall, I think you can just see from just that breakdown on each part of his management style and what he does. You can kind of see that within our squad, within how our team plays, how our team behave, I suppose, in some respects as well. Just give us a general view and opinion on what we've just gone through there. Do you want to start first, Ollie, on this one?
Yeah. I mean, it's really clear, isn't it, the way that he came in, the difference that he made immediately in the changes with the team. From the playing style and kind of the characteristics of the player, as you've just been saying, like he's kind of molded it all into exactly how almost the environment that he came from. We all know what Spanish football's like, and back in the day, I mean, it definitely wasn't what it was like now. And I think what you're seeing in a lot of Premier League teams at the moment, and why some of these teams are standing out. For example, Villa, City and Bournemouth have all had their time recently. They're all playing different kind of football and it's exciting. It's really exciting to watch recently. I think it comes back to, and me and Malcolm have had this discussion before, almost controlled, high-intensity, aggressive football. And I think it's so hard to get the balance between high-intensity, aggressive, but also orchestrated and controlled. And I think that's exactly what he's doing perfectly. And it's beautiful to watch a lot of the time. When he nails it, my God, are we turning into something nice? So, brilliant all round.
Yeah, definitely. Malcolm.
Yeah, analytics. dare I mention it? So obviously his backroom staff, they got all the stats and everything on every player, what they need. But Andoni will be happy with a pen and paper.
Yeah.
So that just shows you the difference. He won't sit at a computer and, bash out so much data that he's got. That's what his backroom staff do, his training staff, coaching staff and whatever. He'll make his points, what he sees, and he'll make a note of it on a bit of paper, and that's good enough for him. Because he's got enough to look at and focus on without having to worry about all the technical stuff in the background. So it's very much hands-on, and I love it because it's always one-on-one, isn't it? It's always like the manager and the players. He's fully involved in everything that they do, training sessions and whatever. I just love watching these small clips as well, which pop up on the social media or wherever, to see him and basically explain to the guys what needs to be done, and they've got to go ahead and do it. Now whether they like it or not, and they know they have to do it, is running. And this was always key with Andoni when he first came in, and it's still key now, that they have to run and run and run. And this is why, if you look, you'll find I think it's the minutes, the number of yards or meters or kilometers, whatever it is. This bit of data is on the internet to be found, and that Bournemouth are right up there at the top, simply because they're very, very fit. So it's it has its worth, doesn't it?
There's another stat I want to throw in there as well. I'm not sure if this is the one you saw, but it's the vertical football one. So we're the quickest team at getting the ball forward within the smallest amount of seconds compared to any team.
Something else, yeah.
Yeah, so literally, like in that, you've got to think. Then we're receiving the ball. I mean, look back to Semenyo's goal on the counter attack, Kluivert's goal on the counter attack, Krupi's goal on the counter attack. Like everything that we're doing, we're getting it, and straight into the second half, final third, push, 4 or 5 players. So it's interesting.
No, that's a good stat to throw in there as well. The transitional play from defence to attack is phenomenal under this guy, isn't it? But no, thanks for your views and opinions on that one, guys. Very much appreciated. Let's move on to Andoni developing players now at our club. We'll take a look at this. There's a little bit just to cover off very quickly. So Andoni had to learn quickly about the players he had available when he joined the club. Training staff and others involved within the club could offer up their expertise and assessments, and they could be made to the manager, but not every player would fit into Andoni's style, and they would eventually move on or get loan deals away from the club. The remaining and new incoming players would be given the opportunity under Andoni. If we look at the 2 years since Andoni first arrived, we can clearly see big improvements in some players. Andoni allows these players to go and perform, as well as having pivotal roles in certain positions. To point out one or two individuals, Alex Scott, obviously who's recently just been called up to the full England squad, has come on in leaps and bounds under Andoni. He has the natural ability as a player, but Andoni has given him the freedom to express himself, play his own game at times within a match. Ryan Christie is another who's benefited under Andoni. A fit Ryan Christie is a certain starter with so much energy, and Andoni gave Ryan the freedom to run wherever around the midfield, be it left to right or right to left. He has the energy to be excellent box-to-box player too, as well as a good link-up player. It would not be right to not give a mention of David Brooks, who had a loan spell, obviously, at Southampton, and then he came back to the club. As a big favourite with many of the fans, it would be interesting to see how he would fit back into the squad. His performance levels have gone up, so much so that he must be considered as a starter for most games. By his own admittance, he is not the fastest player, but his work rate, technical ability, and vision are excellent. Whether only 60 minutes or full 90, Brooksy has developed more under Andoni. Andoni is quietly going about his job, not getting too close to his players, but close enough to have an impact to get his message across. When at work, he is full on and expects the same from the players, focusing on finer details and analysis, as well as giving the players positive and negative feedback. His training staff work hard to bring players up to speed and to see where their potential improvements can be made. Throw in the family environment around the club and the training complex, and this can only benefit any player from the academy to the first team. The new players which have recently joined the club have been mostly thrown into the starting lineup. Credit must be given to the recruitment department for sounding out these players in the first place, although still quite early for most of them. Signs are already showing improvements with some of them. Trust must also come into play between the manager and the players. Andoni trusts these players to perform at the levels he expects, and they are certainly not letting him down. Guys, let's take a look, obviously, in terms of developing players. Let's take a look at players that have been developed and have moved on. Now, I think when you look at all these players now, obviously, Andoni only managed to work with Mr. Dom Solanke for one season. But the rest of the players, apart from Dino, I think he pretty much spent 2 seasons with. Yes, he did. So these ones have been sold on for quite considerable amounts of money. I mean, let's throw a question in here very quickly. Let's throw a question that's been sort of on my mind recently. I mean, have you seen much of Kirkes, for example, at Liverpool? Now, obviously, we bought him for 15.5 million. We've sold him for 40 million, around that kind of mark. And he's struggling there. Now, Andoni has worked with him. Now, I think when he first come in my opinion, he looked a bit like, I would describe him as a little bit like Jimenez has been lately. I would say a little bit rough around the edges, but you can tell that there's a quality player in there. Obviously, working with Andoni in the timescale he did, he became, one of the first on the team sheet. His assists, his defensive attributes improved. But do you think sometimes that maybe Kirkes might be missing the influence of Andoni by working under a new manager? Or is it the price tag that's affected him? Or is it the pressures of playing for Liverpool? I mean, just, at your two's opinions, I don't know if you want to go first on this one, Malcolm, but, we've watched a player last season who was, I would say consistently one of the best left backs in the league start to struggle at Liverpool a little bit.
I think maybe the club, first and foremost. I think it was quite brave that Arne Slot actually threw him in. I really thought Andy Robertson would carry on being left back, with Kirkes getting some minutes, maybe through cup competitions or whatever, or as a sub, to build him up and make him more aware. I mean, it's a brave move, to be honest with you, but he has underperformed, definitely, in my opinion. And obviously Andy Robertson's come back in and he's saying, thank you very much. I'll show you how to do it. Basically, that's not a critic or anything. It's a fact. He's gone to another club where a totally different environment to what he was used to at Bournemouth. Perhaps he won't have the one-on-one that he had at Bournemouth at Liverpool. Who knows? I mean, I don't know the setup.
No.
But it's obviously not working the way he would have liked.
Yeah. Ollie?
I mean, we could talk about this for hours, I think. I think it's one of the most interesting things that's happened. And then, again, I think coming back to a lot of the shows me and Malcolm have done, we kind of psychoanalyze these kind of things a ton and the effects, external effects that may make a player not perform on the pitch. And I think this one's such a special situation. I think it's everything. I think it was small fish, big water, big fish, small water kind of thing at first. I think he has jumped a tad too quick. I think there was a progression plan for him, possibly. I think that rough around the edges is really easy to continue to expose and build on the bad habits when you're not continuously being honed. And if you haven't mastered your trade, it's really easy to pick up bad stuff, isn't it? Day to day with any role, any job. And I just think, especially with football and his specific role, if that's not drilled into you in the right way for the right amount of time, then you're never going to get what you intended to buy. And I think it's a bit naive for Liverpool to have thought, because I called this at the time. I called this on our shows at the time. I said, this is a terrible move for Kirkes and for Liverpool. I just can't see it working, and it hasn't. And I feel for him. I kind of want him back, but we've moved on to bigger and better things now as well, and we're developing and adapting, and we're sticking with players who are going to stick with us and work with us through this vision. So, Kirkes is a tough one for me. It's a tough one. It's a sore subject.
Yeah, no, completely agree with both your points there. Going back a little bit further with Dom. Now, Dom first come to the club, didn't really hit the ground running, did he? He did have the big reputations of Callum Wilson and Josh King ahead of him at the time. Obviously, we are unfortunately relegated. I think he scored, 16 goals in the first season back in the Championship? And then obviously he scored over 30 goals the following season. So, under Scott Parker really found his goal scoring exploits. Had a bit of a struggle when we first went back up into the Premier League. I think it was always going to be, that kind of way slightly that, I would have been surprised if Dom had hit 30 goals again. It would have been nice if he had. But obviously Andoni's come in, worked with him for, a season and he's gone on, 19 Premier League goals? Something like that, 19. It was over 20 goals for the collective season, wasn't it? So, a good return at the top level. Do you think really we've got Andoni to sort of thank for kind of the transfer fees that we're seeing here? I mean, that can translate to, Zabra at 54.5 million. I mean, Dango as well at 3.2 million. Do we think, as a collective that we've got Andoni to sort of thank for these transfer fees coming in?
I mean, if I may go first here, because again, a subject I'm quite passionate on. So in front of us is 150 million profit. Like we can't look at that and go, oh, maybe one of them was down to Andoni, maybe some of them all fell at the right time. It's absolutely not. There is a pattern happening here. And whether that pattern goes as far back as Andoni's experience and knowledge and vision and understanding of the game and of certain players, or whether it goes further back past Andoni, I think they've all got a part to play in it. From almost from before we've signed players, and we've got to sell this dream. And the dream is, Bill's come in, and with Bill, we've had this amazing bit of investment with stadium plans and academies and all this other stuff going on. But at the same time, we've now built an incredible team of players that are sticking and doing exactly the same as all these 5 players in front of us, just building and continuing to grow in price. And I think we can continue to see this pattern as long as Iraola stays, and he's got Frano in the background and Pinto in the background and Foley behind them. I think it comes back to what we've built, right? Halfway through this plan, and it's working perfectly.
Yeah. Malcolm.
I think the interesting one here is Dom. Obviously, because a season previous.
Yeah.
That obviously had a brilliant season with us in the Premier League there, and his goals stood out. And it's not rocket science, is it? If you're going to have a striker who's going to hit 20 goals in the Premier League, then they're going to get snapped up by one of the big boys.
Yep.
And at that time, was it the time when, because Harry Kane had gone, hadn't he, then?
Yep, there was an immediate need.
Yeah, so they needed a replacement. They had the money. They put in such an offer that we couldn't really refuse it, to be honest with you. And we all wished him well. The fact that he's got, this injury problem that's ongoing, not just one, but, there's a couple of injuries he's had. And so he hasn't really shone at Tottenham as yet. I think if they can get him fit, he will show them, what a good striker he really is. But it's going to have to be, over several months, and not just maybe a couple of weeks, and then he has to drop out because of injury again or whatever. So, but yeah, I think for us it was a brilliant move. Obviously, we had that money then; we could bring Eva in. But they're all players that they've done the job at Bournemouth, and they've all improved under Andoni. And okay, Dino is the exception, isn't he? Because we only had him for the season, and he was just this wow player. And it wasn't a question of which Premier League would he be going to. It's a question of which big club in the world would want him. And he's gone to Real Madrid. So good luck to the lad. And under Andoni, he had the opportunity and he took it with both hands.
Yeah.
So, big thanks to Andoni for, bringing these players on and playing in a team the way they played. Mm-hmm. And obviously so many people seeing them and their value goes up because they all consistent players week in, week out. Yeah, and that's why everybody looks upon how did they get these players? Where did they come from? It's just us going about our business, finding the right players through recruitment, analysing them. Do they fit the system? Can they fit the system? And then improve them when they get here. And this is what we've done now at the start of this season with the new guys. So yeah, it's much the same. They are all history now, and I think like you rightly said, with Kirk unfortunately, he didn't want to stick around for another season, and that was probably his downfall a little bit. But hey ho, we can't dwell on it, can we?
No, absolutely not. No, but so both great points there. And then if you look across here, Zaba, he's gone on to PSG. I think he even captained him the other night, didn't he? Zaba, I think he was. I think he had the captain's
He could well
armband.
have done. I didn't notice.
Yeah, I think he's doing pretty well there. Dino, we knew what kind of player Dino was going to be for Real Madrid, and Dango as well. He seems to have made an impact at Brentford. Whether he's happy with the game time he's getting there, who knows. But in terms of the majority of the players that have been developed and moved on, the majority are doing very well, which is good to see. But let's have a look at the current batch of players, and here's just a few. We can bring in some more names, guys, as we discuss this if you want, but obviously developing the next batch of potential world-class players. Now I think listed here is for myself. I did a little video on it a while ago about possibly being our next 50 million pound plus man in terms of valuation. But guys, I mean, Traffair, Scott, Jimenez, obviously he's on loan from AC Milan. Milo Sakovic, or as our friend Darren likes to call him, Milo the Savage. And of course, Gannon Doak, who has been absolutely fantastic for Scotland. I've watched their last few games internationally, and obviously well done to Scotland for qualifying for the World Cup. But this guy here has been a real excitement to watch for Scotland, and I think personally, a player that has the potential to become world class. But I mean, guys, the next batch of world class players, do you think that they're listed here? Is there anyone that you would maybe disagree with and maybe add in instead? I mean, this is just a talking topic here, but I think these are the type of players, and I'm sure Alex Scott, who's worked with Andoni now for the last sort of 2 years, would probably say Andoni is the right type of coach to develop these kind of players. I mean, guys, I don't know who wants to go first. Malcolm, do you want to go first on this one? Or Ollie, up to you.
Thanks, Ollie. Yeah, it's a shame that Diakite not in the list there, but we can't throw him in.
That's another one. Yeah. I mean, I could have listed all the players here just for anybody listening.
It's okay.
We've got Traffair, Scott, Jimenez, Milo Savic, and Gannon Doak on the screen for those that are listening on Spotify. But I could have picked, I could have probably put the whole squad here. But yeah, I mean, Diakite, make your point on Diakite quickly, Malcolm, if you can.
Yeah, I mean, he for me is the standout of the new kids on the block, if you like. So the new players. I love Traffair, absolutely super. I can't exactly say why, but I can visualize that Diakite will be the next Zaba, if you like. Depending, obviously, the minutes he gets, because obviously it's a headache for Andoni at the moment with Milos as well, having two centre backs come in, so they will be fighting for one place basically, with Senesi performing the miracles that he's performing this season. But every one of these guys, I don't think it would be unfair to say 50 plus million. The way transfers are going. But the main point being, they've got these players in to build and continue this project.
Yeah.
So we want these players that come in, not just for a season, not just their own welfare, to say, look, I'm going to go hell for leather and then get the hell out of here. They want to be part of it. And obviously, we talk quite often about the spine of the team. So obviously the players that have been longer at the club. And these have all come in and connected. And it's brilliant how it's just continuing. It really is. And I'm super, super excited, especially when you think the players we lost last season, that we've just carried on as though nothing has happened. So the system stays. Andoni does his job. The players know what they have to do. Brilliant. No better time to be a Cherries fan.
Yeah, absolutely. Ollie.
Yeah, I mean, I echo all of those words, as you guys know. There is no better time to be a Cherries fan. And sat in front of me right now, I see another 150 million profit, How can you not? Just mentioning a few other names, I did write some bits down. I've got 8 players. There's 8 players for me that
Brilliant. Yeah.
are concern moving forward for being picked up. The ones that are likely to have doubled the estimates that they've got at the moment, from the 20s to the 40s, 25s to 50s, things like that. Obviously, Diakite, as you said, Malcolm, as one of the biggest signings, and the amount of athleticism he brings has been awesome already. Just looking at how he clears the ball and wins duels so competitively while stepping foot into the Premier League. I think his first 4 days was away at Anfield for the first game of the Premier League on a Friday night. I think there's no more tougher situation to be thrown into as a centre back. Incredible, and all it's doing is building fantastic players. And as you said, with Milos Savic. Or Milos the Savage. Again, young, mouldable, super impressive debut. But unfortunately, we have to start looking at all the others that aren't as fresh. And I know you're not going to like to hear it, Mal, but the Semenyos, the Krupies, Scott, Adams, Tav, Clivert, every single one of them has the potential right now in January to be valued at 50, 60 plus, and to be swept away from right under our feet. It's so possible because of how well each of them individually have played, and then how they've each built themselves into the team and then secured the positions in that team. That's it's a tough thing for another team to see that happen at Bournemouth. It's almost envious. And how are other teams not doing it? And what we've built here is second to none in the space of time that we've had. It's just, I think it's really excessive. I think it's really excessive what we're doing. And I think that's why I get so intense about it, because it's unheard of, mate. It really is. Like what we've done in the last 2 years, the money that we've earned, and the fact that we're about to repeat that in another 2-year cycle is nuts. It's nuts.
I think Malcolm's itching here. Go on.
No, I'm not. I'm not going to get into an argument or a discussion or anything. It's just that I see what you're saying. Obviously, with all the other players that you mentioned, but they're all under contract. We don't know what the contracts are.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is perhaps a really good thing. It's something else that obviously we will be discussing at some point. But it's because they're new. Obviously, my star man, Fruppy, got a big shout out to him for the way he started. Now that he's got some minutes under his belt and got some goals, and I do think he's going to be probably our top scorer this season, as long as he gets the games.
Agreed.
Now, whether that means at the end of the season or towards the end of the season, other clubs will be looking, thinking, crikey, who's this young lad? They can ask. They can always make a phone call to Bournemouth, but whether they get the right answer or the answer they want is something totally different.
Completely.
I would really like to think that most of these are on a minimum 2-year stay, a minimum, for this plan of bills to continue.
Exactly. And I think that's what it comes down to. And although I say all these things, I say it's plausible. And it's because of how well we're doing as a club and how well they're doing as players that makes it so plausible and, not completely nonsense to talk about or to think about.
That's right.
You are 100% right. I think even irrelevant of contract, these are certain players. All 8 that I just named are all bought in for a certain reason. I don't think fame or money or Champions League minutes is going to change that in 2 years. So, yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Cool. Cool. I'm glad you two haven't got two fisticuffs on that one. Yeah, right. Let's have a look at the next one. Just make it big quickly. Now, this is another slight mistake. So
There he is.
There he is. Yeah. Is this the current backbone for our future European ambitions? So a mixture of youth with experience. Now, guys, I could have put several different combinations of players here. Okay. I'm not saying that this is, necessarily my opinion or that this is the backbone that's going to take us into our European ambitions in a few years' time. But, there could be several different combinations. But, I mean, for you guys, who would you say is, kind of, our backbone? That's, I know Ollie's go on. Over to you.
Ollie.
Adams, Krupi, and Scott. I think if there's anyone that's still going to be with us in 3 years' time, no matter what happens anywhere in the world, those three players are going to create what Bournemouth is going to be about in the future. I think young, aggressive, hungry footballers that want to make a real entrance into the Prem. I think that's exactly what they're all about, all three of them.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I say, I'm a big fan of Scott. I could have put him in there. I just sort of plucked these players from out the air because I did start to think about it, and I thought, God, you know what, I could be here all day. So I just literally plucked them from out of the sky, as they say. So, but yeah, no, echo your thoughts there. Scott, Adams, Krupi. Yeah, I mean, I love Krupi. I know Malcolm.
I really struggle to see what else the future of football could be. I think. Yeah. Football comes across so many eras, and I think we're almost like looking at this Bournemouth team, like we're almost in a new era of football. It really is. And yeah, those three just, I don't know, if we can keep hold of them three specifically. I mean, obviously the Semenyos would be fantastic. The Clives would be unbelievable. There's more of a spine that we could have, but I think looking further into the future, once we have everything that we want, and we've, 3 years in the future, we've got our European status, we're spending more money on players, we're really building the depth, better stadium, better academy. I'd really love to see Adams, Krupi, and Scott at the forefront of that, as the OGs almost for the new fans of AFCB, what really excited that new influx of football fans for our club. Yeah, I can see it being three.
Yeah, I love that. Love that, what you've just come up with there. Malcolm, over to you.
Yeah, it's just amazing how quickly football evolves, doesn't it?
Yeah.
With the backbone, I'd certainly go along. Yeah, Clivert. You also have to look at the little groups. You've got Clivert, Tav, Alex Scott, Semenya. Yeah. I mean, they're like a little clique, if you like. They're not a clique, but they're like a little group of friends. They hang out together outside of football. And they are part, the backbone. They really are. And I'm sure any one of these new players that are coming, okay, you put in Krupi here, he can tag along as well. And why not? And if you've got this, like, bloody hell, friendly family environment within the dressing room, where there's no negativity, nothing in there, it's just all positive and so much energy. It must be a wonderful place to work.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But I think, you have to thank, obviously, Andoni and the backroom staff for, bringing this all together. Obviously, you can look back further, can't you, how the club has evolved since, hitting Premier League, what went on previous and how it's gone. So step by step by step, you can look back in 10 years' time and maybe there's another couple of books out with so much history, recent history, lots of new stories. But this is football, and like I say, it evolves very, very quickly. And if these players can stay, be part of the backbone of the whole squad or the first team, brilliant. And achieve the goals that we would like to see.
Yeah,
I can't add any more.
No, summed up perfectly well. Guys that are watching, pop in the comments, your thoughts on this. Obviously, Ollie and Malcolm have just named a few players there. There's 5 on the screen here. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. It'd be nice to hear some other thoughts on this as well. Well, let's move on to the last segment of the show and the last segment of our 3-part series. And this is Andoni's tactical analysis. So we're going to start to look at this in a little bit more detail. This is another one that, probably we could go on for hours, but we've picked some tactical bits out. But just to start off with, looking back at the start of Andoni's time at Bournemouth, having arrived at the club which had a different style of football, Andoni would certainly need some time to implement his philosophy. One must remember it is not only the players who have to buy into it, but also the training staff. Now, obviously, at the time, we know that Andoni's assistant couldn't come across to us, and he inherited the likes of Tommy Elflick and Sean Cooper. Key for Andoni was fitness. Players would need to perform over the full 90 minutes at a consistent level of fitness. Running is the preferred method during training sessions to get the players up to the required level. Players often comment on this during interviews. Not all enthusiastic, but accept that it has helped their performances. Once players have achieved the right levels, it is easy to see by watching games what this brings. Looking at the starting 11, no matter who is picked, there will be other players ready to come on and play their part as and when Andoni feels the time is right. He has players with fresh legs to continue playing the same style. This has been noticeable during many games when the team score late on or continue the high intensity up to the last kick of the game, which is, something absolutely phenomenal what we see sometimes. So, Andoni has brought high pressing into the team from his days back in Spain. It is just a question of pressing the opposition in just the middle of the pitch, but all over the pitch. As many teams like to play out from the back. Andoni has made his press work using the forward players and forcing errors from the opponents. The press is also used to move the opponents to play on another side of the pitch. A tactical move which can also benefit his style and forcing the opposition to play on their weaker side. When pressing in their own half, this gives the opportunity for the team to transition quickly and create goal-scoring chances. When defending, no matter which part of the pitch, all players are tuned into Andoni's tactics, high intensity, press and quick transition. It has become known as chaotic football, but in reality, it is very effective. Andoni will usually set up with a 4-2-3-1 system, which can easily be changed in the game to a 4-3-3 or other formation types, as we'll discuss very shortly. Having players with pace who can interchange is also a positive. Long gone are the days when forward players used to wait on the halfway line for the ball to be hoofed up the field. Now, I'm sure, Malcolm's old enough, and I know I'm old enough to remember that style of football by hoofing up to the forwards back in the day. All changed. All players must be able to defend, including attackers, defenders, and are encouraged to play an attacker's role too. So this will always come back to the fitness of the players and why Andoni wants them to run so much during training. And you can also see from just reading through this little bit here why Andoni's fitness and conditioning coach, the one that's always the naughty boy on the touchline, is so important to his setup. So let's take a look then. So with this then, guys, how the press works. Just a summary, really. Defensive block, the formation falls into a 4-4-2 formation, or there's another formation as well, isn't there? Is it 4-3?
Yeah, 4-3-2-1, I think it was.
Something like that.
4-1-3-2 or something. Yeah,
something like that.
4-2-3-1.
That's it. Yeah, we'll have a look at some other formations very shortly. Short passing and playing through the press with different types of styles of passing. Aggressive midfielders that win the ball back or intercept passes and transition into attack. And of course, are counter-attacking. So we're going to just look at a few little bits and pieces here. So this is basically just an average lineup from last season, just to show basically the formation we use and to start off with. And what we're going to do is we're just going to have a look at a little bit of the impact this kind of lineup had last season and kind of what this season's lineup is doing as well. So yeah, that is basically our starting pattern with some of the names there that were quite regulars last season. So Dino obviously got his move to Real Madrid, which we've discussed. He was quite pivotal in our playing out from the back last season. He could always play short balls or he could play long balls. It was a demonstration of basically, how good of his, basically, I think this is what really put him in the shop window. Not only was his defensive attributes, but also the way he could play out from the back. So basically, most of the time, he would either go forward into Cliver or to Semenyo or to Kirkes, but he would also have his own kind of transition as play as well. Because what would happen, guys, do chuck in anything at any point here. Most of the time, Kepa, at the time he was our goalkeeper, would feed the ball to Dino, which would allow the likes of Kirkes, to push up higher up the field. This would then make the shape look like a back three. So basically, Kirkes would be so far up the field that Hudson would kind of take up a sort of left back role, with Zabba in the middle. Smithy or whoever was playing right back would not be so far up the field to sort of drop back into line with them to form kind of like a back three. Sometimes you'll see Adams drop in. So Dino would often use Adams or Cook. Could be any names really. Just put these names in there just for the purpose of this exercise. Who would drop in to receive the ball, which then that would completely bypass the opponent's high press. So if there was no way of going forward, Adams would drop in. Another way as well, if the opposition of the opposing side, or the opposition side was caught onto this passage of play, it would then force Kepa to push Dino out. So sometimes you would see he would be pushing Dino out further onto sort of the left-hand side into a left-back position. He would then pin him the ball, which allowed Kirkes and Semenyo to push further up the pitch. Sometimes though, teams, obviously as games go on or as teams study teams, as we know, they spend so many times, so many hours these days watching videos of how teams play. If the opposition was to drop in, Adams would then look for another transition to play across the other side. And this is when Zabba would be brought in. So if there was no room for Dino to move forward, Adams would drop in, receive the ball, who would then spray it across to Zabba. So this all sort of build-up play from the back is kind of, what I thoroughly enjoyed watching last season, to be honest. So basically, Zabba could travel a little bit. There would be a bit of a transition here, play to the other side of the pitch, by using that support of Zabba. Who would obviously move forward. There's other ways as well. So if Zabba couldn't progress on forward, sometimes Smith would come into play, who would then move back to Adams. And by this time, you would see that Dino's even moved more forward up the pitch. So, so Smith would then pass back to Adams, which has allowed Dino to move up on the left-hand side into an attacking left-back position. This happened a lot as we built up from the back during last season. But on the other hand as well, when Zabba used to come into play, he would look more similar to what Senesi's doing this season, would look more direct. So there would be more of a direct pass rather than sort of passing around the midfield, keeping the possession of the ball. He would then be able to pinpoint out a player like Semenyo and pop the ball straight across into his path or up over the top. So that would be a different way of coming out from the back as well. If we look at Kirkes' impacts last season, and kind of very similar now to how Treffer's playing, he would be able to play high would get direct crosses into our forwards with crosses from out wide. He would challenge his fullback and beat the man. If he did, he'd sometimes get down the bar line to put low crosses in, which we do a lot of that even to today, don't we? A lot of low crosses into the box. This would allow players in Semenyo's position, where Semenyo is there, to get into the 6-yard box to receive that low ball to attack the goal. Alternatively, if the opponent defence didn't allow Kirkes to come inside, he would then be able to use Kluivert or whoever was playing in behind the front man there, which would open up the space a little bit more for him. Whereas Truffert this season, so since losing Kirkes, Truffert has fitted well into what is needed to attack, good at getting forward and passing balls into dangerous positions. But with Dino and Zaba gone, the build-up play has changed slightly at the back this season. So in terms of going forward still, Truffert has kind of really picked up where Kirkes has left off. But this season, it has changed a little bit more how we build up from the back. And this is by using all 4 defenders for the distribution purpose. So this means now we receive the ball deeper and distribution is mixed between full-backs and centre-backs now. So whereas before Dino was mainly receiving the ball, or Zaba from the centre-back positions, now all 4 come into play a lot more this season. So if we look at Marcus Senesi, so if he starts building up from the back, he has, and I know Malcolm will probably touch on this shortly, he's got a great passing range. So rather than travelling a lot with the ball, he can pick out pinpoint passes to the forward line from deeper positioning. So that could be either wingers on either wing. It could be more of a central player like Scott, or the man that sort of plays in behind the forward in the shape of someone like Tavernier, which I think this is what I've really loved about Senesi this season. Not only is his tackling been spot on sometimes, I love how he plays from out the back. I think it's really exciting. So yeah, in terms of the wingers as well, so the wingers has changed slightly. Truffert does still do what Kirkes has done, but also at times as well, they use sometimes a bit more direct balls. So if Petrovic does feed out from the back and Truffert is a lot deeper, he can, and Jimenez the same, pick out the long balls into the likes of Semenyo and Brooks. So rather than going through the middle, using our wide players. That, guys, I mean, what I've obviously just spoke a lot there about different sort of playing from the back. Is this kind of what you guys are seeing as well? Or have you seen some different kind of tactics that maybe, obviously there's so many tactics that we could discuss, but obviously I've just pinpointed some of the ones that I've enjoyed watching as we play from the back. But, anything to add into these bits?
No, go ahead.
Thanks, mate. There is another one. If you go back to last season, and it's also continued this season, with Dino, he would carry the ball. He would go forward. It didn't happen at the start when he started getting minutes, but as the season progressed, I suppose it was just having the confidence and ability. He had that anyway, but it's having the confidence, and obviously the further forward he goes, the more he sees. Senesi can do this as well. It's not only his passing range, fully endorse what you said. His defending has been really good. Even when he struggled, there's always somebody else to help bail him out, which is what I like about the defensive lineup we have. It's not just, it can always be one-on-one. There's always going to be somebody there, even if it's a Tyler Adams who comes back and rescues the situation, or Scotty. But with Senesi, his range of passing is brilliant, and he's going to have so many assists this season as well with his crossing. Even a ball like he's just up to the halfway line, maybe slightly left, and he'll kick a ball in, sending across, creating opportunities, or he'll see a run of whether it's Evan Nielsen or whoever, being very, very creative inside the opposition's half. For a central defender, brilliant. Yeah. He is certainly a standout player for me at the moment. Deserves all the praise that he gets, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah, Ollie?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. I think there's a number of things that I'd echo from both of you on a lot of the things that we said there. Senesi, as you said, fantastic vision, has really been a standout player for a number of games last season and this season, actually. I think he's come into his game a lot more this season. I think that's only going to get better for him as well. I think having Traffert, or the likes of Traffert on his left and Diakite on his right, or Milos on his right, I think that's going to be awesome for Senesi moving forward as a bit of support. I think, and in regards to our final third game, I think we continue to see things adapt, don't we? We continue to see runs down the left. We continue to see us drag defenders out of position, 1-2 around the back line. There's a ton of stuff that we're doing that, again, we never used to do. This kind of football was never in our realms, or in our dictionary whenever we'd come out onto the pitch. But it's fantastic and it's an exciting time. And you got to keep watching it, because I think there's going to be more tactical, strategic plays coming, especially with some of the games that we've got coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I say, we're just kind of highlighting some here on the show, but you're absolutely spot on, Ollie. I think there's going to be a lot more to come, definitely. But let's just have a quick look at the double pivot and our formation, which is there to adapt to whoever we're playing. So basically, the opponent's midfield can sometimes outnumber ours. So when deep, you'll see Scott move into a position alongside whoever's playing in kind of our number 10 role. Could be Clivert, Tavernier, loads of different names you could put in there. And at this point, our wingers are also allowing them to high press the fullback. That's just a little bit there on our formation and kind of how it changes. We discussed, obviously, there is various different positions that it does sort of change into from time to time. But let's have a quick look at when we have the ball, because this is some stuff that really does interest me when we do have the ball in possession. So when we have the ball in possession, our formation can sometimes drop into a 4-2-4 pattern. And this pattern then allows the centre-backs to dictate the ball movement. This allows our full-backs to move into attacking positions and wingers to press. I really like what we do when we got the ball. I don't know whether you two agree as well. I think, when we have the ball, we use it very, very effectively. And these kind of patterns demonstrate that.
I want to jump in as well, because I think, as you mentioned, when we tend to, so let's say the opposition formation changes mid-game and we tend to mirror our double pivot, as you said. I think our off-ball play is what's excited me this season. Like how immediate we are to pressure, how much we're chasing the goalkeeper when the ball's at the goalkeeper's foot, how much we're pressing on both left back and wing backs. Everything that we're doing is aggressive. It's aggressive on the first touch. It's aggressive on the second touch. It's aggressive on the head in the air. And I think that's what's making this so intriguing and backs up this point when you're on the ball, is because we're winning the ball more often. So we're starting to see these plays a lot more progressively, because we're being able to watch them play out. We're being able to watch players like Adams win the ball, take it down, put it back to our defence and go, right, how are we playing this? And you can see it all the time. You see it all the time. And if the left flank gets a bit too busy, you see them all pointing, switch it, get the ball to the other side of the pitch. And we're continuously moving their players. And again, it's just a type of football that we never used to be able to watch for Bournemouth.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like you say, I haven't really done anything on the off the ball movement, but I mean, like players like Evan Nilsson and Krupi, I think their off the ball work is absolutely fantastic, and we can say that for many players in the squad. Malcolm, anything you want to jump in with here quickly, or?
I can only agree with what Ollie's saying. Yeah, it's certainly a different brand of football, and it's really interesting. Like you say, with or without the ball, watch what the players are doing, and it's going to keep evolving. And wait for maybe what's coming up in the coming weeks. There's bound to be some sort of change, which will surprise everybody in the way we set up, the way we play, the movement, and everything else. So, yeah, it's like a game of chess.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, at this point then, so following on from here, obviously when our fullbacks move into attacking positions and the wingers press, centre backs may also go more direct. This is what we've seen a bit more this season, similar to what Zaba does. That could be Diakite or Senesi or whoever, putting more balls forward into either wingers, or sometimes we're seeing now direct through to the middle players as well. So the likes of Krupi and Evan Nilsson. So just lastly, I mean, we'll summarise some of the more tactical stuff in a second, but lastly, another move which I love is when we've actually got possession with the goalkeeper. So Petrovic, when he has possession, sometimes will play out from the back, but there is times when he would rather go out wide. So rather than straight down the middle, Petrovic would put it out wide to somewhere where Brooks or one of our wingers are. When they win the ball, someone like Krupi, let's use Krupi as an example, would make a run to support. Then the winger, Brooks or whoever, can win the ball and either flick it on or a little header or a little flick with the foot or a side pass, however they do it, gets that ball to Krupi. And this is where it brings the number 10 role into play. The likes of Tavernier, for example, who would then pick the ball up and then look to spray it across to someone like Semenyo out on the left. So, yeah, he would then get in behind the front man, receive the ball, quick transition from Krupe, who would put the ball across to Semenyo. Not from Krupe, sorry, Tavernier. Quick ball across to Semenyo, who would then progress on to attack the fullback with some aggression as well. So that's another little move that we've done that I quite like as well. But guys, I mean, let's have a look at some other aspects that you guys want to chuck in that you enjoy about his tactics. I mean, that's just a quick summary and some examples. But we spoke briefly about off the ball. How we play off the ball. Guys, any other things that you want to mention about the tactics? Like I say, there's so many we could mention. That was just a little summary of some there.
Yeah, I think apart from everything we've mentioned, I think it's important to recognise like the risks that he takes, especially in big games. Like as a club like Bournemouth, we know that we're not going to necessarily, or we've had the impression that we're not necessarily going to go into big games, take away 3 points, like we've seen in the last 2 seasons at the likes of United, Arsenal's, Liverpool's at home. We've really pulled some results out, and I think that's through him having some brave risk taking, really pulling out some shots mid-game and before the game that maybe other managers wouldn't have necessarily done. And I think in line with that, the reason that we've got those results is because he creates chaos. Like none of it is truly, it's not like we haven't seen this kind of football before. He's not a magician. He's not creating things that have never been around in football. All he's doing is mixing it up a little bit, throwing a bit of aggressive chaos in there, and we're taking every possible chance that we can. We're taking it. And I think that's what's exciting, and that's what's really almost discombobulating other teams. It's just sending them off a little bit, and that's why you're starting to see, especially this season, there's been set pieces. I've seen 9 players behind the bloody ball. We've got 10 opposing players in front of us in the final third. And you're thinking, well, hang on a minute. Teams are ready for us. They're ready to be broken down. They're ready to be disorganized. I think that's one of the key things for Iraola here is nothing he's doing is magic, right? This has all been done before. He's just using it so perfectly. And manipulating it in the right way for him and for our players. And yeah, just kudos, real big kudos. I'm really excited to see what the rest of this season has to bring. Yeah, buzzing. Can we do another one of these next season?
yeah. We definitely will. I think to just summarise up what you said there is it's a case of not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so hard to put your finger on it, because he's not doing anything that we haven't seen before. Like everything he's doing, it's almost by the playbook. It's almost old school. Almost think back to old school Spanish, Brazilian, Argentinian football, 2004, 2008, 2000. There was some fantastic flair-filled football pitches with players that were hungry to get the ball in the back of the net and teams that were really working together as a football team. And I don't think we've seen that for a long time, and that's why it's so special at the minute.
Yeah, beautiful. Couldn't sum it up any better. Malcolm.
Yeah, he does like to shuffle up the pack a little bit, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's no set time for it. It's with Andoni. He'll switch things mid-game. His vision from the sideline must be absolutely perfect. And I suppose if you want to look into later in the games with these, bringing players on, taking players off, swapping things around, any time from an hour onwards. It doesn't have to be exactly 60 minutes. You can leave it till 75. You're probably sat there in the stands thinking, oh, bloody hell, when is he going to change things up? Or, it's that unknown thing, but you got to trust him because he's shown that he's capable of making changes no matter when in the game. Unfortunately, the last one happened very early. But it's very, very chaotic, but it's just so wonderful to watch. And I'm just really glad that I managed to get so many games actually recorded. So to maybe sometime, goodness knows when, maybe season's end or whatever, look back on games over the last 2 years and to see how things have evolved under Andoni, over a 2-year period. It'd be really fascinating to rewatch those games again.
I hear that as a Berlin viewing party at the end of each season for us and the gang. We can all come to yours. We'll all, spend the weekend with you in Berlin and watch all of the games. That sounds awesome.
What can I say to that?
Sounds like an invite.
Are
you inviting yourself, mister?
Wonderful. Well, this has been great to do these 3 parts with you both. Thank you both for your researches that you've done, the time and the effort that you've put into it. It's been really great, and it's helped out a lot. So thank you to you both. But to close the 3-parter, I think this little bit here that I'm going to read out now, I think just kind of sums everything up very, very beautifully. And that is the closing message for our halftime report mini series. This project was never about survival football. It's about transformation. The results may sting at times, and the last one against Villa definitely did, but the framework keeps building. The real question isn't just whether we believe in Iraola, it's whether we believe in the process that hired him.
Yes.
Now, I think that is what you put together, Ollie, so credit to you on that one. But I think that beautiful little piece there sums up the whole thing.
I couldn't agree more. I really, really couldn't. I think when I was putting it together and reading it, and I think this whole thing about the 5-year plan, about the start of it being about the survival of the Premier League. And season 1, we really did that. And then season 2, we established ourselves with the growth in-house. And everything that's happening is just it has gone from survival to being comfortable to transforming. And it's spot on. It's beautiful to see. I'm so excited for the next 2 years.
Yeah, totally. Malcolm, final word from you on our halftime report.
See, speechless. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Loads of content in there. Anybody who's watching, listening, whatever, please feel free to make your comments, when the videos go out.
Yeah.
Take a look back at parts 1 and 2. Naturally, it's our opinions. It's the way we see it as fans. There's no rights, no wrongs. But just to have a different view of how we look at our club. It's a little bit different than going to a game live and watching it, and you're coming out a little bit exasperated or overjoyed or whatever, and you can lose things in that minute of emotion. But give them some time, maybe a couple of hours later, whatever, and you come down from your perch and think, well, that wasn't so bad, and you can see things, in a better light, and maybe judge them better and with a clearer mind. And that's what we've done over this couple of seasons with Andoni. Can't judge him on one game, can't judge him on one performance, whether it's a good one or a bad one. The same with the players. When a player doesn't have a good game, it's no good slating him, saying drop him, sell him, or whatever. It is a process, and they're all humans. And that's what I love about the club now. It is a family club where everybody's pulling together, fans, staff, players alike, and wanting the club to succeed. So, we are moving forward step by step.
Yeah.
May it long continue.
What do they say? Together, anything is possible.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's been excellent, guys. So thank you both very much. But just before we go, if you haven't already, we've recently had the former chairman, Jeff Mostyn, on the show. We did a interview with him recently about his time at the club. And obviously he's got a new book out as well, which I haven't got to hand at the minute, but I do have a copy of it. Do have a look at his book as well. It's a fantastic read. If you haven't checked out the interview, that is now on the channel, on the YouTube channel, on the Spotify channel, Acast, and wherever else it goes. It's on every single platform. Do check that out. But from myself, Malcolm and Ollie, and from this edition of Cherry Picking, all that's left to say is up the cherries.
Up the cherries.
The cherries.
Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the Talksport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search Talksport Fan Network.
I should be like you, Melvin.